of the shark bite questions, which ones did you want to go over, Regina? Two. Otis? 4. Of those, who else wanted to see 2? Okay, who else wanted to see 4? Okay. Were there any others? We can do 4 and 5 since those aren't something we've talked about. So we'll do 2, 4, and 5. Make sure that you have the work and the answers on your answer sheet. For number 2, we had to distribute these fractions. You can use your calculator. You could have done it by hand, either or. But we're multiplying across. So this would be 28 over 40 x plus whatever this is going to give me. Someone multiply that or tell me what they got for 7 over 8 times 16. 14. Say that again. 14. I'll try again. And then 3/10 x minus, that sounds right. Yeah. Simplify anything you can. So the 28 over 40 would simplify to be 7 over 10. And then combine your like terms. We have x's, we have constants. If we are adding these two together, we're just adding our numerators. So 7 plus 3 would give us 10 over 10. 14 minus 6 would give us 8. And then simplify. This would just become 1x or 2x. So x plus 8 was your final answer for number 2. Questions on that one? Usually in a typical year, the relations, the functions, that's something we do as an earlier unit, but this year we decided to go a different route. So this will be something you'll see here soon. If something is a relation, they don't have repeating x's, or if they do, the y values are the same. If they have repeating x's with different y values, it's not a function. So again, we'll go more in depth with that later. It's okay if that didn't make a whole lot of sense now. To determine if this graph is a function, we can draw a vertical line. If it touches it at more than one place, so like here it touches it twice, then it's not a function. Okay, so make sure you have those written down. I forgot to pull up the other set of notes. For number 1, your answer was 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. Number 6, because this has a negative exponent, we can rewrite this as 4 times 4 to the third. We know 4 to the third is 64. And you would multiply those two together to get 256. 9, 8 to the 0 is 1. So we're multiplying 3 times 1 to get 3. For 10, we can rewrite this part as 16 times 1 over 2 squared, or 4. 16 times 1/4 would be the same thing as 16 over 4, which is 4. Let's see, 15. These both have a negative. So you can do one or two things. Some of you were actually trying to do like the fraction. It gets difficult when it's already a fraction. So I'll show that way in a second. You could just take these two things and switch them. And then simplify. But if you were doing it that way with the fractions, it would look something like this. 32 to the negative 1 would become 1 over 32. 8 to the negative 1 would become 1 over 8. We don't like fractions within fractions, so what happens is here we would have to take this number and flip it. But since this is part of one big fraction, what I do to one part of the fraction, I have to do to the other. Which is how we end up with this. So you could do it that way, sure, but instead of doing all of that, if you just remember that they're both negative, so they flip, that might be easier for you. 46. Here you have to think about each thing as its own thing. 8 and A are next to each other, but they're not together. B squared and C to the negative 2 are next to each other, multiplying. There are invisible dots between all of these. So you're just changing what is negative, or what has a negative exponent. So if you were just going into the method, the things with negatives would go to the bottom. Anything that didn't have a negative would stay the same. If you wanted to write it in the fraction format, you would have 8 times 1 over a to the third times b squared times 1 over c squared, and then you would combine it all together, and you would get the same thing. And then for 49, same as 15, these both have a negative, so switch them and make the exponent positive. Of all of those, what questions do we have? Okay, Lacey.
For number 15, do you have to put the exponent of 1?
No, you don't. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary. Otis.
When you have an exponent of 0, the number, like the variable, just turns into a 1, correct?
Do you see an example like that?
Number 14?
14. Yeah, this would just become 1.
Okay.
But if it was
just
like
one variable.
Yeah. But if this was x to the 0, that would still be 1.
Okay.
Now, if it was 3x to the 0, that would be the same thing as 3 times x to the 0.
Which would be 3 times 1, which is just 3.
Right. That is the only time it's acceptable to change variables to numbers. Any other questions about this in general, specifically? Other questions maybe you were trying, just want to double check? Okay. I thought that freshmen were also taking the STAR test in English, but I may have been incorrect. Have you heard anything about that in English? Yes, okay. So it's similar. The computer adaptive tests, that the more you get right, the harder it becomes. The purpose, I don't really know the purpose of it, except to take data. The county needs data.
Understand the skill level you're at.
Sure. All of those things. So at this time, go ahead and get out your laptop. You can't use a calculator on it because they'll have a calculator for harder questions, so you can either move it off to the side or put it back. If you need to move somewhere where you can reach an outlet, you can do that. There is anyone at this table could probably reach that outlet. There's an outlet in the back. There's an outlet at this back table, so you can move around if you need to. You can get as much scrap paper as you want, or if you want to use expo markers, you can do that.